Kagurabachi is full of tragic characters with heartbreaking pasts. There's Hyonagi, whose clan was nearly wiped out because of the horrific rumor that eating their flesh granted immortality. Then there's Chihiro, who was forced to witness the murder of his own father. But today I want to talk about a character whose trauma didn't just leave emotional scars, it transformed him into one of the strongest sorcerers in Kagurabachi, and that's Ikuto Hagiwara. Major spoilers ahead. For those unfamiliar with him, Ikuto Hagiwara was the leader of the Kaminabi's anti-Cloud Gouger force and is the wielder of Jikai, a magnetism-based sorcery that allows him to manipulate magnetic fields, iron sands, knives, and all that, making him essentially Kagurabachi's version of Magneto. Before everything fell apart, Ikuto was confident, composed, and a leader who cared about his squad above all else. The anti-Cloud Gouger special forces consisted of himself and troops that he's known for 10 plus years, and they are Shiumi Harima, Kazune Machi, Makoto Kasahara, Kyohiko Uzuki, and his childhood friend Hajime Kugara. Using his magnetism-based sorcery, Jikai, Ikuto had everyone's uniform sewn with iron sand, allowing him to move his teammates away from the enemy fire. It wasn't just a cool strategy, it was also his way of protecting the people he was responsible for. At one point, Shiumi points out that if Ikuto were to fall though, the rest of the squad will likely fall with him. Ikuto doesn't deny it. Instead, he just promises that no one on his team will die before he does. Their lives are his responsibility. It's a promise he truly believed he could keep. But then, they encounter Jinichi Sojo. After Chihiro's first battle with Sojo, the Kabanabi deployed the anti-Cloud Gouger force with two objectives, to kill Jinichi Sojo and recover the Cloud Gouger, otherwise known as Kurugumo. Before the fight even begins, we get a glimpse of the kind of leader Ikuto is. He casually flips the chair around to address Chihiro, confidently lays out his plan and carries himself with authority, and genuinely believes his team can win. Even when Shiumi calls the plan half-baked, Ikuto never loses faith in it. So now the battle starts. It starts exactly as they planned it. Shiumi uses Gansui to lift the battlefield into the air. Hajime pressures Sojo up close, while Ikuto uses Jikai to launch blades from a distance. Even when Sojo counters with Kurugumo's Ko and Mei, everything is still within Ikuto's expectations. His team adapts, executes their strategy, eventually manages to separate Sojo from Cloud Gouger using an electromagnetic cannon created through the combined efforts of Ikuto and Hajime. The plan worked. Or at least that's what everybody thought. In an instant though, Sojo remotely activates Cloud Gouger, sending a lightning blast straight through Makoto and Hajime. Just like that, Ikuto's best friend is dead. And with him, so is Ikuto's confidence. For the first time in the battle, the situation has completely slipped out of his control. Desperate to salvage what's left, he orders Kazune to activate their backup plan. Before Kazune can respond, Sojo cuts off Kazune's arm, fatally wounds Shiumi in the same slash, and the battlefield itself comes crashing down around them. The anti-Cloud Gouger force had been annihilated. Ikuto's fate remained unknown for nearly 80 chapters, but when he finally returned in chapter 98, it became clear that the encounter with Sojo had fundamentally changed the way Ikuto fought forever. When we finally see Ikuto again, the physical damage is pretty apparent. He lost both of his legs. But compared to the damage done to his mind, those injuries kinda seem secondary. So we see him surrounded by the iron sand that was once woven into the uniforms of his fallen comrades, because keeping it close is the only thing that brings him comfort. We find him lying in bed, unable to eat, and is convinced that everyone sees him as the man who got his entire squad killed. The person he's confiding in is his best friend, Hajime, or at least that's what we are led to believe in the beginning. At first, it seems like Hajime is actually responding to him, then you realize the mask is being held up by Ikuto's own iron sand. He's subconsciously manipulating it, moving it as if his best friend were still there. Now this is a man completely shattered by the promise he made that no one on his squad would die before he did. He understood the weight of those lives, and now he's forced to carry the guilt of surviving when they didn't. That raises another question. If everyone else seemingly died besides Kazune, how is Ikuto still alive? As we learn later, after being buried beneath the collapsing battlefield, Ikuto unconsciously used Jikai to create a massive hand that pulled him to safety before he could drown. But Ikuto doesn't believe he saved himself. He believes Hajime reached out and rescued him instead. That's what really makes this scene so fascinating. According to the doctor, Ikuto knows Hajime is dead, but emotionally he can't accept it. His trauma has become so deeply rooted that his own sorcery manifests as the friend he lost. He's trapped somewhere between reality and denial, using Jikai to keep a version of Hajime alive without even realizing it. You'd think an experience like that would mark the end of his career as a sorcerer, but in reality it became the reason he grew even stronger. Before we get into how Ikuto's trauma completely changed the way he uses Jikai, if you've been enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and if you're into Kagurabachi content, I've got a lot of videos that I've already dropped and even more planned. Now let's talk about why this wasn't just a power-up. Like many power systems, whether it's chakra in Naruto, cursed energy in Jujutsu Kaisen, or spirit energy in Kagurabachi, the sorcerer's abilities are ultimately an extension of themselves, and through the trauma of losing his squad and subconsciously recreating his best friend through Jikai, Ikuto's relationship with his own sorcery has now fundamentally changed. His trauma didn't simply make him stronger, instead it made Jikai an almost instinctive extension of his body. Using his sorcery no longer required deliberate thought, it became second nature. It's similar to an athlete entering the flow, where years of training take over without the conscious effort, or a Jujutsu sorcerer chaining together consecutive black flashes by entering the zone. That distinction is what makes Ikuto's evolution feel so earned. His trauma didn't grant him a brand new ability, it permanently just changed the way he interacted with the power he already had, allowing him to wield Jikai with a level of subconscious mastery that he never had before. Because of that, he returns as a completely different sorcerer, unlocking an entirely new arsenal of techniques. Ikuto not only interacts with his sorcery differently, but the stakes behind every battle have changed as well. He's no longer fighting to protect his squad, he's fighting to avenge them. Every technique he uses now reflects that shift in purpose. First new ability we see is his ability to levitate himself using Iron Sand. It's sadly ironic because this is exactly what his sorcery was originally meant for, protecting his teammates. Instead, he's now forced to use it to move around after losing his legs. But in Ikuto's mind, it isn't him doing any of this, it's just like Hajime carrying him. The second new ability is even more absurd. By manipulating a gigantic magnetic field around the Kabanabi headquarters, Ikuto essentially turns the entire building into a massive MRI machine, allowing him to locate his targets with incredible precision. Once Hajime identifies the enemy, Ikuto launches an Iron Sand projectile straight through multiple floors to impale them. What's really interesting is how this mirrors one of his combos during the fight against Sojo. Back then, Ikuto relied on Hajime's iron body to launch him like a projectile. Now he's capable of recreating that same strategy entirely on his own, but still using Hajime. His trauma didn't simply give him stronger abilities, it fundamentally changed the way he interacts with Jikai. His sorcery has now become an extension of himself. So being able to scan an entire building, identify a tiny target hidden within somebody's body, and accurately strike through multiple floors is an absurd leap in precision compared to anything we saw before. After landing the attack, Ikuto says, "We still got it, partner." Continue the fantasy that Hajime is still alive and fighting alongside him. The weapon he uses is just as symbolic. Before Sojo, the iron sand woven into his teammates' uniforms existed to keep them safe. Now, that same iron sand has become a weapon used to avenge them. His sorcery hasn't just evolved mechanically, his purpose has evolved alongside him. I also love the conversations between Ikuto and Hajime. Even though he's really just talking to himself, those exchanges let him strategize, analyze his opponent, and acknowledge things like their endurance after surviving one of his attacks. In a strange way, it's through these imagined conversations that we begin to see glimpses of the composed, tactical leader he used to be. Eventually, Ikuto reaches his limit and collapses from the overexertion and malnourishment. But what stands out isn't that he falls, it's just that he's frustrated by it. That frustration gives me hope that he's finally beginning to value his own life again, realizing that if he's going to continue fighting for his comrades, he has to take care of himself first. Also, Kazune is still alive, so seeing them interact and process their trauma together is going to be very interesting to see on the page. The final technique we see is this enormous iron wall that he uses to protect his allies from Yura. It's a reminder that despite everything he's been through, there's still a protector there that wants to keep his squad alive. He immediately begins planning around Hakari, intending to use him to eliminate the barrier. That's also part of his strategy, that he was able to recognize Hakari's usefulness and save him. Which is really cool, because we're seeing that Ikuto is still thinking ahead. And I think that's what makes his evolution so compelling to me. Most shonen power-ups come from intense training, hidden potential, or simply just refusing to give up. Ikuto's didn't. His evolution came from trauma fundamentally changing the way he interacted with his own spirit energy. Kagurabachi treats sorcery as an extension of the user, so when Ikuto's mind changed, his sorcery changed with it. That's what makes his return feel less like a random power-up and more like the natural continuation of his character. So yeah, Hokusano completely shattered my expectations with the Ikuto. After the Sojo arc, I honestly thought we'd seen the last of him. Instead, he returned as an overwhelming force whose strength feels completely earned because it's rooted in everything he experienced. I'm really excited to see where Hokusano takes him in part 2, especially now that he seems to have rediscovered a reason to keep living, and that's through battle. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Kagurabachi content. Thanks for watching.